Okay, so you're here to get like the real deal right. Like cut to the chase, no fluff, just the facts on stuff that matters. That's what we're all about here, and today is no exception.
Today's deep dive, we're going deep into Amityville. I mean, this story still gives people chills,
Right.
right? The haunting. So we dug into articles, firsthand accounts, you name it, to bring you the real story behind that house. You know the one
Hmm.
on Ocean Avenue.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that really sticks with you. And our mission today is pretty simple. We're gonna separate fact from fiction. You know what really happened versus what people say happened. And also, we're gonna try and understand why people are still so captivated by this whole thing. Why does it stick with us? And to do that, we're focusing on two main events: the DeFeo murders, a whole family murdered. November 1974. Horrible. And then about a year later, the Lutz family moves into that same house and things get really weird. It's like just setting the stage, November 1974. Imagine a quiet neighborhood, right? Amityville, Long Island. Everything seems normal, and then bam, total nightmare. Six members of the DeFeo family, the parents, four kids, all found dead in their beds. It's just a horrific scene, hard to even imagine.
It is. And the really disturbing part is that the oldest son, Ronald DeFeo Jr., you might hear him called Butch sometimes, he's the only one alive when the police arrive.
Mhm.
And right off the bat, he claims voices made him do it. So right away, you have this tragedy plus this incredibly creepy claim.
Yeah, and then it gets even weirder when you start looking at the details of the crime scene. All six victims were face down in their beds, shot. But no signs of struggle, no signs that they fought back. A whole family just murdered in their sleep. Doesn't that seem odd?
Extremely odd. And then you've got the fact that the neighbors didn't hear anything unusual. No gunshots, just the
Right.
family dog barking.
Hmm.
And they think that all six murders happened within like 15 minutes. So how does that even happen without anyone noticing?
Right. I mean, it just doesn't add up. And then there's Ronald DeFeo Jr. himself. This wasn't some random act of violence. This guy had a history. Violence towards his family, drug problems, alcohol abuse. There was even a time when he pulled a gun on his own father. Not exactly a picture of stability, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And that story he told the police at first about a mafia hitman making him kill his family. Well, that fell apart pretty quickly. And he ended up confessing to the murders.
And his confession, well, it's chilling. He said, once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast. Just like that, no emotion. I mean, does that give you a sense of just how messed up his mental state was, whatever was going on in his head?
It really does. And the whole voices claim became a huge issue. But in the end, the prosecution argued that he didn't really hear voices. It wasn't a genuine hallucination or anything like that. They said it was more likely antisocial personality disorder. And the jury agreed with them.
6 counts of murder, life sentence. I think he's still in prison to this day. But even now, there are people who believe that maybe there was a second killer, someone else involved who got away. It's like another dark layer added to this already horrific story.
It definitely keeps the mystery alive.
Mhm.
And then, like we said, about a year after all of this, the Lutz family moves into the house, December 1975.
Yeah. George and Kathy Lutz and their 3 kids. They bought the house. Big house for a really good price. I mean, you can kind of see why they were interested. But they knew what had happened there, right? They knew about the murders. But supposedly they thought houses don't have memories. What do you think about that?
Oh, it's a nice thought, isn't
Right.
it? But their 28 days in that house became pretty infamous.
It's important to look at what they say happened, and one of the sources we have lays it out chronologically, day by day. So, day one, almost immediately they start feeling cold. These weird chills, even though the rooms are warm, they feel like they're being watched. And George the father starts waking up every night at 3:15 a.m., like clockwork, the same time as the murders. He says he'd just stare out at the boathouse feeling like something was watching him back. Doesn't that give you chills?
It's certainly an eerie coincidence. I mean, was it psychological?
Yeah.
Triggered by what happened in the house?
Mm.
Or something else, who knows? But waking up at that exact time every night, it's really strange.
And then day four, it gets even creepier. A whole swarm of flies shows up in one of the upstairs rooms in the middle of winter on Long Island. That's not normal. And Kathy starts having these horrible nightmares about the murders. Bloody nightmares. And this is before she even knew the details of how they died.
Yeah, the flies are really disturbing. In some folklore, Beelzebub is called the Lord of the Flies. I'm not saying that's what was going on, but it just adds another layer to think about. And those nightmares, too. Before she knew how they were killed, it's
Yeah.
like something was messing with her.
Then week two, it's like things ramp up, doors slamming shut by themselves, a crucifix on the wall turns upside down. I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie, right? And their daughter, Missy, starts talking about an imaginary friend named Jody. But she describes this Jody as being like a pig with red eyes, glowing red eyes. And George says he saw the same eyes staring at him through the window.
Yeah, that's pretty disturbing. Both of them seeing the same thing. Even if it was just in their heads, it's still creepy, right? I mean, what were they seeing?
Week 3 is when things really start to fall apart. George becomes distant and obsessed with chopping wood. Kathy says she levitated off the bed one night and woke up with scratches on her chest. And then a priest comes to bless the house, and he hears a voice yelling, "Get out!" And then later he gets sick.
The priest's experience is interesting because it's like someone else is verifying what the Lutzes are saying,
Hmm.
at least according to the book. But it does lend some credibility to their story, right?
And then day 28, it seems like they just hit their breaking point. Green slime starts oozing out of the walls. They hear banging noises all night. They constantly feel like something is watching them, stalked. And they just snap. They pack up some stuff in the middle of the night and flee, leaving everything behind. They never went back. I mean, that's got to tell you how scared they were.
It definitely does. To just leave everything behind like that, they must have been terrified.
One of our sources has this list of creepy real-life facts that supposedly prove the Lutzes were telling the truth. Things like George waking up at 3.15, the flies in winter, Missy's Jody and George seeing the red eyes. And then there's the fact that the DeFeo victims were all face down, no struggle. And then there's the whole red room thing, a hidden room in the basement that wasn't on the blueprints. Their dog wouldn't go near it. And it smelled weird. And of course, the priest hearing, "Get out," and getting sick.
It's important to remember that these so-called facts have been challenged over the years. I mean, the Red Room, for example, that became a huge point of contention.
Right. And we found another source that mentions even more strange things that happened. George's personality changed. He became lazy and grumpy. Kathy seemed to age really quickly while they were there. They even claim they found hoof prints in the snow, like cloven hooves. But that was debunked. And furniture moving around like it was dancing. Other priests had weird experiences in the house, too. It sounds like total chaos, right?
It does sound like a horror movie, but a lot of these extra claims haven't been verified. It's basically just the Lutz's word, or the stuff they told the guy who wrote the book.
Which brings us to the aftermath and the big question. Was the haunting real, or were the Lutzes making it all up? The book, The Amityville Horror, came out, and it was a huge bestseller. And then the movies. I mean, this story became one of the most famous hauntings ever.
And those movies definitely made the story even bigger. But all that attention meant that people started looking at it more closely, and that's when the doubts started creeping in.
Yeah. Other families lived in the house after the Lutzes, and they didn't experience anything weird. No ghosts, no slime, nothing. The Cromartie family lived there for 10 years, and they said there was no red room, just a tiny closet. And those hoof prints in the snow, totally fake. There wasn't even any snow on the ground when the Lutzes were there.
And this is a big one. The lawyer who defended Ronald DeFeo Jr., he later admitted that he helped the Lutzes make up the haunting story. Said they were drinking wine and just came up with it. That's pretty damning, don't you think?
It is. But the Lutz family has always insisted that their story is true. Even after all these years, they say they really experienced those things.
And that's an important point.
Yeah.
They never backed down, that
Yeah.
they truly believed it. Which makes you think, what's more powerful? The facts, or what we believe, or what we want to believe.
And like we said, other families lived in that house after the Lutzes, and nothing happened. They even changed the address to keep people away. It was sold again a few years ago. So if it really was haunted, wouldn't someone else have seen something?
It makes you wonder, right? If there was really something evil in that house, wouldn't it have stuck around? Wouldn't it have shown itself to someone else?
But we can't forget that something truly awful did happen in that house, the DeFeo murders. That's a fact. 6 people were killed.
Absolutely. And maybe that's part of why the Amityville story is still so popular. It's not just about ghosts, it's about real-life horror, too. And one of the sources we looked at had this interesting idea. They said the story was so popular in the 70s because it reflected what a lot of Americans were feeling at the time. Money problems, uncertainty about the future. The Lutz family in the book, they were struggling financially too, so maybe people connected with that, even with all the ghost stuff.
Makes sense. It was like this perfect storm, right? A real-life tragedy, plus a spooky haunted house, plus people feeling anxious about the economy. And you throw in some popular horror tropes. You know, the evil father figure, the creepy kids, the priest who can't help. It was a story that just hit all the right buttons.
And even the stuff that happened around the book itself is kind of creepy. The author's car caught fire. He almost drowned. And someone who read some of the early chapters died in a fire. It's like this story was cursed.
So what do we have in the end? A family is brutally murdered, And then another family moves in and claims the house is haunted. But a lot of their story has been debunked. So, what do you believe?
That's the question, isn't it? Was it real? Or was it all just a story? I think the Amityville case really makes you think about what's true and what we choose to believe. Even if it's not true, it makes you think about trauma and fear and how we use stories to explain things we don't understand.
So, for everyone listening, what part of the story sticks with you? Is it the murders? The psychology of someone who could kill their whole family? Or is it the haunting, the mystery of it all, even if it wasn't real? How do our own fears and the stories we hear shape the way we see the world?
And that's really what it comes down to, the Amityville story. Real or not, it makes us question what we believe. It makes us think about the power of stories. And it makes us wonder what really happened in that house, what was left behind in those walls.